the people at the centre have been putting in for many years now in different ways. So yeah, so Bradford's a great place on every level, and I've always been impressed by the people of Bradford when they've come along to talks. They've had a sense of humour, they've been down to earth, they've been very friendly, and I'm sure you all are, even though I can't see you. Anyway, the topic is goodbye to anger, frustration, and irritation. And these things are around us all the time, aren't they? Especially, I think, with the lockdown. That's made things a bit more tense, a bit more awkward for lots of people. Especially if you can't go out, and if your children can't go to school, and you know they're getting on your nerves a bit. You know, a bit of frustration, a bit of irritation that can come in if you don't get a break from each other. It's a bit like, you know, animals in a zoo. You know, if you're caged up, the animals can turn on each other and start biting each other, and like, well, chickens do as well, don't they? When they're all cooped up, you just get frustrated. You want a bit of space, bit of breathing space. You want to be free. You want to be able to express yourself without others, you know, criticizing you or judging you, or and all the other things which can go on. So if we can, you know, eliminate the frustration and the irritation, and because there are aspects of anger, there's many more aspects. There's rage, there's hate, there's murderous feelings, and you only have to, you know, watch your television and you'll see really there's a whole culture of violence around. You know, people watch films where they're killing each other, bombing each other, and the news isn't much different actually. And if you think about what's been going on in the United States as well, the country tearing itself apart and people invading, you know, the White House and all the rest of it. Amazing things really, or Congress I should say, rather than the White House itself. And it's all to do with this built up rage, frustration, and irritation. And we're going to look at how you can get rid of it. And we're not talking about managing it. There's lots of anger management courses out there which you can take. And they're based on the assumption that anger is perfectly normal and natural, something which we have to put up with and cope with, a bit like a medical condition, a bit like diabetes or a heart condition, something that, you know, is a nuisance, but really there's nothing you can do except put up with it. So our approach to anger, when I say our approach, Brahma Kumaris' approach to anger is very different. It's based on a belief that we can get rid of it because it doesn't belong to us in the first place. It's something that we've picked up, something that we've acquired over time. And the basic philosophy and understanding of Brahma Kumaris is that we're all spiritual beings. So each of us is a soul in a body. And that soul originally is full of peace, love, and happiness, and power, and wisdom. So in other words, you know, we believe that the human spirit is originally good, which is very different from the Western approach, which is based on the idea, mainly from the Abrahamic religions, I think, that you're born in a state of sin, and, you know, therefore human nature is bad and needs controlling and needs suppressing through fear and force. And of course, we have lots of laws and everything else, and policemen and etc., to make sure that we behave ourselves because we're basically bad, which obviously isn't a very nice view of human nature, and it can be demoralizing, and it can lead to low self-esteem and depression and all sorts of things. So the idea that we're originally good is very powerful actually, and it makes sense. You know, everything starts off new, everything starts off nice. And when you see a little newborn baby, unless it's been around for a number of births, which is another issue, but when it's first born, there's a lovely feeling of peace around it. And you can see a baby in its cot, and you can feel the energy all around it being very peaceful, and people will tiptoe in and quietly speak and things like that because they're picking up on that sense of peace. So we believe in that original goodness, that original state of peace, and we sum that up in two words which some of you will know, and those who are new to the Brahma Kumaris won't know. Those two words are Om and Shanti. So Om, I am a soul, Shanti, peace. So Om Shanti, I am a peaceful soul. And, you know, when we tap into that peace, then everything becomes so much easier, so much more manageable. So really, all of you, I would say, are special. You might think, well, why am I special coming here? You're special because you recognize that you're not peaceful. And in other words, you recognize you're angry and you want to do something about it. So, you know, that puts you 2 steps ahead of most other people. Because a lot of people just don't even think about it. They're just angry, just shout, they just swear, they just do whatever they do, and it doesn't bother them. But it does bother you, and you want to improve, you want to be better. So if you believe that you can get rid of anger, you can. If you believe you can't, you're right as well, because your belief will determine whether or not you're even going to make the effort to get rid of your anger. So I'm hoping and assuming that most of you believe that you can get rid of your anger. You can say bye-bye to anger. So just to prove we are by nature peace-loving people, we're going to do 3 relaxation exercises, and you can do these anytime, and they will put you in touch with your peace. So first of all, we're going to do some slow, deep, gentle breathing called diaphragm breathing. So if you can make sure you're sitting upright, please. Legs uncrossed, hands open on your thighs. And then stop breathing in through your nose and fill your lungs from the bottom to the top. And then hold the breath for the count of 3. And then slowly release through the mouth. And then as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in a golden glowing energy, an energy of peace, an energy that makes you feel relaxed. So just imagine you're breathing in this energy. And first of all, and also when you're breathing out, you're letting go of any tension, any negativity. So first of all, visualize this golden energy just filling your head, relaxing your eyes, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your tongue, and all your facial muscles. Now visualize this lovely golden glowing energy moving down through your neck, relaxing your throat, relaxing the back of your neck. And then visualize it spreading across your shoulders, removing all the tension from your shoulders. Then spreading down your arms to your fingertips, relaxing your hands and relaxing your arms. Then visualize it going down your spine, relaxing your spine and the muscles in your back. And then going through all the internal organs. So the whole of your inside of your body is filled with a relaxing, golden, glowing energy. Relaxing your heart, your lungs, and all your other internal organs. And now as you breathe in, visualize that lovely relaxing golden energy going down through your legs, through your thighs and your calf muscles, right down to the tips of your toes. Relaxing your legs, relaxing your feet, relaxing your toes. So the whole body is relaxed and the mind is relaxed. You feel calm and peaceful. So when we're in this state of peace, we can think more clearly. We can be more detached. So that means we can see things objectively, without being too caught up in them. And in this state, we can then respond rather than react, because we're more in control of ourselves. We're more in control of our thoughts, more in control of our feelings. And the more we're in control, and the more calm we are, and the more we respond rather than react, the better the outcome. So if somebody disturbs this peace of mind, or tries to, when we're feeling good like this, we can deal with it much more effectively. If you're feeling peaceful and somebody shouts at you, it doesn't matter so much. If you're feeling a bit tired and a bit grumpy, etc., and they shout at you, then you're likely to react. And then a reaction will always lead to a worse outcome. Excuse me. So if you have some paper and pen to hand, which I recommend, then I would suggest, if you'd like to put down, always remember to respond rather than react to the things which happen in your life. The second thing to put down is to take time out every day to do some relaxation exercises, just like we've done. And first thing in the morning would be a good time, because then it puts you in control of your mind and your body first thing in the morning. And really, saying goodbye to anger or frustration or irritation is all about being in control of your mind and your body. So when we're out of control, that things go wrong. Okay, so that's a little introduction to give you an idea of basically, what saying goodbye to anger involves. And even that bit alone, if you can remember, I'm a peaceful soul, I need to take control of my mind and my body. I can do that through breathing, deep breathing, and also by controlling what's going on in here. So imagining you're full of peace or love is going to make you feel much better than if you're imagining you're full of anger and resentment. Okay, so in what's left of our time, I'm going to give you a 4-step process, which comes from the course called Overcoming Anger, or Goodbye to Anger, Frustration and Irritation. And the course normally lasts longer than this, and it has a PowerPoint presentation and it has handouts and things like that. So we're going to do it all in summary form. And if you're so inclined, you can then, if you want to, you can email in for the PowerPoint, email the Bradford Inner Space for the PowerPoint and also for a handout. And the handout is like this. It's 4 sheets with a summary really of everything that we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so the 4 steps, it's useful just to write them down and then I'll go over them. The first step is to open your eyes. So in other words, to be aware of what anger is all about, because if you don't understand it, then it's going to be difficult to actually, deal with it. So it's fairly straightforward. Open your eyes. And then we're really going on a journey inside. So we've opened our eyes, and the next step then is to change our mind. What's going on in here? How do our thoughts affect the way we deal with things? So that's the second step. The third step then is to heal your heart. And all of us have got a lot of stuff from the past which is blocking our hearts and leads to us reacting in an angry way to different things. So if we can clear that, clear all those angry feelings, then the heart will open and then we can be more loving. So that's the third step. And the fourth step then is to awaken your spirit. And awakening the spirit really involves seeing things from a spiritual perspective and not just from an everyday material perspective. Okay, excuse me. So we'll start off with step 1 then, which is to open your eyes. So I'll give you a definition of anger, which you can write down, or you can wait and look at it again when you get the PowerPoint. So anger is a negative emotional reaction which disturbs our peace of mind and has harmful consequences for the self and others. So it's a negative emotional reaction which disturbs our peace of mind and has harmful consequences for the self and others. So it's a negative reaction, negative emotion, sorry, not from a judgmental point of view, like saying, oh, it's bad, you shouldn't be doing this, but from a consequence point of view. When we get angry, we always feel bad afterwards. We never feel happy. At the time, we might say, great, I told them what I thought, I didn't take any nonsense from them. Who do they think they are? You may have shouted, you may have threatened or bullied, all sorts of different things. But it's guaranteed that afterwards you'll have regrets. Oh, I wish I'd kept my mouth shut. Why didn't I say it differently? Why didn't I just ask them to sit down and have a talk about things? And you'll have those regrets because getting angry goes against your basic peace-loving nature. So in other words, it's your conscience biting you, really, and saying, that's not really you. You're a much nicer person than that. So, very important then to remember that, because, anger, it's like putting your hand in a fire. If you put your hand in a fire, it hurts. And you take it out quickly because you don't want to get burnt. And that really the same applies to anger. It's going to burn us, it's going to make us feel bad. So, very important then to realize that it's a negative emotion, and it disturbs that peace of mind which we've already established. And it does it by reacting. So it's very important to know the difference. We've already mentioned it, but I'll explain the difference in a bit more detail now. The difference between reacting to things and responding. So a reaction is an automatic, non-thinking way of dealing with things. It's an automatic, non-thinking way of dealing with things. So it's what animals do. So, a dog will see a cat and chase it across the road without thinking twice about the busy dual carriageway that lies between the dog and the cat. And of course, the dog probably gets run over or injured. So, rather than react to situations, circumstances, or people, and we all know there are circumstances, COVID would be a good example, wouldn't it? Reacting angrily to that. Situation about, having a challenge at work with a colleague, or facing a redundancy. And then, of course, people. People are great at revealing our weaknesses. And so if we react to anything, it's going to make things worse. So rather than react, we want to respond. And respond means you stop and think, if only for a second, and then that gives you an opportunity to come up with more beneficial ways of dealing with things. So someone shouts at you, instead of reacting and shouting back, you can respond and think, well, hang on, they look a bit upset. So I'll ask them how they are. How are you feeling today? Shall we sit down and talk about it? Whatever it may be. Okay, so that's a little bit about what's the definition of anger. Now, the next thing is to understand the connection between those feelings of anger and what it does to the body. And every time we get angry, we trigger off what's called the fight or flight reaction. And this also applies to irritation, and it applies to all the other aspects of anger, frustration, etc. When we trigger off that fight or flight reaction, it's only meant to occur in situations of perceived danger, when we're in a situation where we feel threatened. In the past, it was to do with, say, being in a forest and a big bear coming towards you. And of course, you'd need to react then very quickly to get out of the way of the bear or the tiger, whatever it may be. So the body has a device for that, whereby adrenaline is pumped into your system, cortisol is injected into your bloodstream, your breathing becomes more shallow, your heart starts beating faster, your muscles all tense up, ready for you to either run away or fight the bear or the tiger. And so this is a perfectly healthy physiological reaction to a situation of danger. And then when the danger has gone, then the body relaxes and goes back to its normal, natural state of peace, being calm, being relaxed. So what's happening today, a lot of the time we're not making a distinction between a tiger in the woods or a big bear attacking us or coming to attack us. We're not making a distinction between that and things like the bus being late, or somebody not saying thank you when you give them a present. And so we're triggering off this fight and flight thing all the time, apparently about 50 times a day. Now, if you keep on doing that, your immune system is going to go down. It won't be able to cope with all this extra cortisol and adrenaline and all the other toxic chemicals which are released when we get frustrated or angry or stressed. So you're going to end up, if you're not careful, with a number of different medical conditions. One, for example, is a skin disorder like eczema, which apparently is extreme anger expressing itself through the skin, because you're not talking about it, you're not releasing it, so it bursts out through your skin. If you're always shouting and swearing and exploding all over the place, you're going to put a lot of strain on your heart, and you could end up with a heart condition. You could end up having a heart attack, heart disease, because of all the pressure you're putting on your heart. If you're the sort of person who pretends you're not angry and you smile sweetly at everybody, say Om Shanti, but inside you're seething with resentment or bitterness or whatever it may be, then all those same chemical reactions are going on inside you. And because you're generating a lot of acid in your body, then you could, I'm not saying you would, but you could end up with cancer. There's quite a strong correlation between suppressed anger and cancer. That's not to suggest that all cancers are due to repressed anger. I'm not saying that, but it's quite a significant factor. And I've done a little bit of research on that myself with groups people who've had cancer or got cancer, and anger definitely passive anger played a part in their situation, their health situation. So when you start to think about the consequences of anger, what it does to your body, what it does to relationships, it can destroy relationships. It leads to marital breakdown. It can lead to assault. It can lead to murder. It can lead to you taking your own life. You're so angry with yourself, you commit suicide. So when you think about what it does to you and to other people, it's a very powerful incentive to stop it, to get rid of it. And obviously, you then need to have some tools to help you to do that. So what we're going to do now is an exercise called reflective learning. And this is a very powerful tool to help you to understand your anger more effectively. So you need a piece of paper and a pen to do this. So I hope you have a paper and a pen. And this reflective learning process, it's basically called an inside-out approach to dealing with things. So rather than looking out there and blaming everybody else, they make me so angry when they do this or when they say that, we look inside. Because we can't control what's going on out there, but we do have a choice over how we handle what's going on out there. Okay, because each of us is responsible for our own thoughts, words, and actions. So then again, this is very important. Write this down. I am responsible for my own thoughts, words, and actions. And if I was to ask you, can anybody make you angry? What would you say? Just one or two of you put in the chat box there, yes or no. Can anybody make you angry? Yes or no? Nobody's putting anything in. Okay, no problem. And the answer is no. Nobody can make you angry. Well, thank you for a no there. Yes, because we actually decide, whether we realize it or not, we decide to get angry with them. Because we could have dealt with this in another way. Okay, so this is very important. So now, if you'd like to write down the word trigger on a piece of paper, something which triggers a reaction of anger in you. So put an example, like for me, I'm going to use a traffic jam. You put your example down, doesn't have to be that, could be anything, the train being late or whatever. Underneath that, writes the word behavior. And next to it, put one or two examples of what you do when you get angry in that situation. So, for example, with the traffic jam, I might start shouting or swearing, or I might beat my horn. So what do you do in your situation? Then underneath that word behavior, write the word physical effects. And then just think back, what happens in my body when I get angry in that situation? So in my case, when I get angry in a traffic jam, I might get palpitations, I might get a stress headache, my muscles might tense up around the wheel of the car. So write down yours. Underneath that, write the word emotion. So what's the main emotion or feeling that you have when your trigger occurs? So in my case, it's probably anger or frustration. Oh, I'm stuck in a traffic jam again, you know. Oh, I need to get a move on. Oh. So frustration. Then underneath that, write down the word thought. And next to it, write down the first thought that you have when your trigger occurs. So my first thought might be, I hate traffic jams. Then underneath that, write the word outcome. When all this happens, is the outcome positive or negative? Does it benefit you or anyone else getting angry? And then under that, write another way. Question mark. Is there another way you could deal with that trigger so you don't get angry? And then think of something you could do differently. So in my case, I could put on some relaxing music to calm me down. I could do some slow, deep, gentle breathing. I could accept the situation, accept the traffic jam. So acceptance is a very powerful tool for controlling or getting rid of frustration and irritation. Because when you're accepting something, there's nothing to get annoyed about. So this exercise is, very important really, because what have we done? We've taken time out We've withdrawn from the world. We've looked inside ourselves. We've decided to try and analyze and understand our behavior. We're recognizing that we have a choice. We could deal with things differently. And then we're considering, how could I deal with this in a different way, a better way? And then this opens up possibilities then, doesn't it? Opens up the opportunity to look at things differently and come up with better ways of communicating, better ways of dealing with things. Okay, so hopefully you've learned something from that. And now I'd just like you to go back to the 4 reactions to the trigger. So yes, your behavior, the physical effects, the emotion, and the thought. Now, all those things normally come together like that. You know, somebody shouts and boom, all these things happen without us fully realizing what's going on. And what we've done actually, we've slowed it all down. We've looked inside, we've analyzed it, we understand we're reacting on 4 levels: mentally, physically, emotionally, behaviorally, to all these situations. So that's interesting in itself, isn't it? You know, nothing is quite as straightforward as it seems. So the person who has been shouting at me, actually now I know they were agitated physically, emotionally they were feeling certain things, and they were also thinking certain things. So of those 4 reactions, put a tick or a cross against the one which you think is the most important. Is it the behavior, the effects on the body? Is it the emotion you're feeling, or is it the thought? And then 2 or 3 of you just type in either thought, feeling, behavior, whatever it may be. The most important reaction. Just one word. Thought, thoughts, thought. Oh, well, there you go. Very good. So 3 out of 4 say thought, yes. And that is the correct answer, actually. Everything starts in here with a thought. It's your thought about the trigger, and I can guarantee the thought about the trigger will be negative. I don't like people shouting at me. Who do they think they are? So that thought will then generate a negative emotion. And the combination of the thought and the feeling will then affect my body. That stress reaction will come in, and then my behavior, which is very important, it's the outcome. So if I want to change my behavior, rather than thinking I must stop shouting at the kids, you know, you need to go inside and understand what's going on. You know, what are you thinking about the kids, etc. Okay, does that make sense? Now, so let me see, someone's put a comment here. I get you, John, to respond is miles better than react, but isn't a little anger part of human nature and shouldn't be suppressed altogether? Well, there we go, you see. That's part of the conditioning. It's part of human nature. We're saying no. It's a learned behavior. That doesn't mean to say that anger isn't appropriate at times, but we can act in an angry way. And we can transform the anger into something positive. That's the other aspect of it. You know, like I've met people and I've been doing overcoming anger courses where, you know, they've lived in a household situation where the mother, for example, was being physically abused, you know, by the father or the husband. Now, obviously, it's very distressing and provokes lots of angry feelings, which are quite understandable and justified in the circumstances. But the daughter who I'm thinking of, when she grew up, decided to open a women's refuge. So she transformed her anger into something which would help other people. So I'm not saying we won't get angry, but we need to be aware of what's triggering the anger and channel it in the right way and understand where it's coming from. So, I mean, it's all quite deep, and it's 5:45. Anyway, this is important stuff, isn't it? So, that's a bit about the first step. We could go into it more, but we haven't got the time. So we've done that first step, which really I think is the most important step. If you've understood what we've been doing and going through, now there we go. Anger can be a clue that a boundary has been crossed or that we need to change something. Yes, definitely. It's a message to us, message that we need to understand. So, yeah. So we need to look for solutions, and like one solution is definitely to have boundaries and to be assertive. So saying no is a very powerful tool for helping us to stay positive and to resolve our frustration or our anger. If we feel somebody's constantly having a go at us or trying to make us do things we don't want to do, then being able to put down a boundary and say no and be assertive. So assertiveness is non-violent communication. I express my views, I say what I need, what I want in a positive way, and I explain how that person's behavior is affecting me so that they understand where I'm coming from, and then we negotiate an outcome which will create a win-win situation if possible. All right, so yeah, can you say the steps, please? So it's your thought about the trigger, that's the first thing. That triggers an emotion. Combination of the thought and the feeling affects your behavior. Sorry, that affects your body, and then that affects your behavior. So those are like the 4 steps or the 4 reactions. Okay, so that leads us then on to looking at thoughts, because they play a very important part. The way we perceive things, our vision of people, our beliefs. If I believe this is right, then that is going to be wrong. And at the moment, there's a clash of cultures, isn't there? There's blame cultures and things like that. So understanding the different types of thoughts is important. So negative thoughts are thoughts which damage the self and other people. So any form of complaining, blaming, comparing, comparison, judgment of any kind means one person or one group is making themselves feel better at the expense of another. And that's going to lead to frustration and resentment and conflict and all sorts of things like that. All the isms, the sexism, the racism, nationalism, they're all negative ways of thinking. Yes, the criticizing, I think I did mention that, but anyway, yeah, criticizing, definitely. The blaming and the shaming, all those create negative reactions in us. And that's going to affect us and other people. So rather than thinking in that way, we need to think in a positive way. So positive thinking is to do with creating thoughts which bring benefit to me and to other people. So seeing the best in every situation rather than the worst. So not catastrophizing, think, oh my God, it's all going wrong, we're all going to end up whatever, but having hope, being optimistic rather than pessimistic, having a positive attitude. So, the glass has water to the middle. Is it half full or is it half empty? If you say it's half empty, you're correct. If you say it's half full, you're correct as well. But it will make a big difference the way you see it. If it's half empty, then I'm going to keep it to myself because there's not much left. If it's half full, I won't mind sharing it with other people. So if you've got a negative attitude, and an attitude is something you bring to every situation, whatever it may be. So sun can be shining and you'll be complaining about the sunshine. It's too hot, even though it was raining the day before. You'll always be unhappy. You'll always be frustrated. You'll always be expecting the worst. So again, expectations, very important. If you expect anything of anyone, you're doomed to frustration, irritation, and anger because it's trying to control other people. You expect the kids to clean their bedroom. If they do it, great. If they don't, you're going to get angry and upset because they haven't done what you wanted them to do. Excuse me, what you've told them to do. So expectations cause a lot of problems. So that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't have standards, and it doesn't mean to say you shouldn't have hope. So you hope the kids will clean the bedroom. If they don't, well, there are other ways of achieving it. You can just close the door and say, I'm not cleaning this room. It's up to you. And if it gets really dirty, then sooner or later, the children are bound to clean it, I think. In my experience, anyway. Yeah, you can accept they don't want to clean their room. It doesn't matter to me as long as they're not leaving their shoes and everything else all over the place. And then you can give people consequences for things. If you carry on leaving your dirty shoes, in the sitting room, then ... well, sanctions can come in. So being calm and peaceful is not a case of being a doormat. So please don't think that. We need to be assertive. We need to express our views. We need to have rules, which we hope people will follow. Ideally, the rules need to be negotiated so everybody understands, why we're doing this or that. Then, all that will help. So to be positive, in fact, there's two ways of looking at everything. You can either go the glad way or the sad way. So the sad way is where you always think in a negative way and you end up feeling stressed, angry, or depressed. Or alternatively, you can go the glad way. So the glad way, you feel happy and you feel good because you're giving rather than taking. You're being loving rather than fearful and critical and judgmental. And you're accepting rather than resisting. And you're being detached. So detachment is a very important tool or technique for dealing with anger. When we detach from things, we can see the bigger picture, we can understand what's going on much better, and we can make better decisions. So if someone bashes into my car, and I am very attached to my car, I'm going to get angry. So I can remember once one of my cars was stolen, and I accepted that, okay, I wasn't attached to the car. The car is not me. But I got very upset because when I called the police, they weren't bothered. They just gave me a number to call and said, if you don't get your car back in 3 weeks, give this number to the insurance company and you'll get your money back. So I had expectations that they would be bothered and they weren't. And then a week or so later, my ego was upset because I got a letter saying, "We're sorry to hear you've been the victim of a crime," you know. And I would say I was the object or the subject of a crime, not the victim, because I didn't have a victim consciousness about it. But I still got upset because my ego was dented slightly. So these things, you know, there's a lot to them. So hopefully some of this is making a difference. So if I can always be positive. Now the positive also, I mean, it includes acceptance, it includes gratitude. So being grateful for what you've got rather than complaining about what you haven't got. That's a big one. You could be moaning to people, wanting your partner to bring in more money so you can have a bigger house, better house, whatever. But we're very lucky. We're alive, we can walk, we can talk. We may not have as much money as we would like, but let's be grateful for what we've got. Appreciating people, very important. Not taking people for granted. And yeah, I've upset somebody by taking them for granted. I need to sort that one out. Yes, you may not necessarily intend to take people for granted, but you can get a bit carried away. So again, we need to be merciful, merciful to ourselves, merciful to other people. No point in beating myself up saying, "Oh, you were horrible. You know, how could you do that? I didn't deliberately take this person for granted. I was so busy I didn't phone them, and they therefore felt rejected, and they're feeling I'm not bothered about them, which I am." But I need to show it and not just feel it or think it. So again, it's all about looking at myself. How can I improve? How can I change? How can I make things better? And then again, yes, so someone there, you know, who thinks obviously along similar lines to me has said, it's better not to have expectations of anything or anyone because you won't get disappointed and there'll be no anger. Yeah, it's part of progress to try and achieve things. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with trying to achieve things. We want to achieve things, definitely. But we don't have to get angry and upset if we don't achieve them. We can just do our best to improve and, yes, and do our best. But if you get angry with yourself and beat yourself up, or again, I mean, we put our children under terrible pressure to get, you know, high grades in their exams. And if they don't get them, what's the implications? You know, we get angry with them, we call them stupid. They carry that around with them for years afterwards, and it demoralizes and depresses them. It doesn't actually help them. So we have to be very careful about what we say to other people. Words are very powerful. Right, okay, so there's lots of comments coming in here. But I need to move on. So I'm trying to give you a flavor of it all, and then you can read up more about it. And also soon, we're going to be launching an Overcoming Anger or Goodbye to Anger video with all of this in more detail. It'll be like the course in detail, which people will be able to watch anytime they like. But that's being done in London at Global Cooperation House. Okay, so I'll give you some idea then about the opening our mind, changing our mind, sorry, so that we're more aware of what we're thinking and how our thinking is affecting our behavior, how it's affecting our perception. You know, look for people's good points rather than their bad points. We've all got weaknesses, but telling them somebody about their weaknesses isn't necessarily going to help them. Focusing on their strengths will encourage and boost them, and then maybe some of those weaknesses will disappear. Okay, All right, then moving on. So the third step then is to heal our hearts. And this is a crucial step. And basically, to sum that up very easily or quickly, is to say that we're all walking wounded people. We've all been hurt in one way or another in the past, not necessarily deliberately. It's not a case of blaming, it's a case of understanding. People may have said something, people may have done something. And especially as children, when we didn't know any better, when we couldn't stand up for ourselves, when we couldn't express ourselves, when we were really the object of other people's thoughts, other people's feelings, other people's behavior. And there could be lots inside from then, anger, the way we were treated. And if we don't get rid of that anger, then it's going to always be festering inside. And people can, press your buttons, as they say. Someone can call you stupid. And that immediately triggers off memories from the past when a teacher may have humiliated you in front of the class and you couldn't say anything. We've all got these sorts of things inside us. I usually use the example of a beanpole, because I used to get called, this is my beanpole experience, I got called a beanpole from an early age because I've always been taller than other people. And a beanpole, really, for those who don't know, who've never had a garden, a beanpole is like a bamboo pole or stick which runner beans can grow up, and it's always quite tall so that the beans can grow up to the top of it. And people quite often would call me a beanpole, and it used to be the little boys, the bullies, and they give me a whack on the back as they said it, and they stick their leg out. I'd fall over onto the ground, graze my knees or my elbows or my hands. Everyone would laugh, and I would feel totally humiliated. Now, we've all got beanpole type experiences inside us. And for a long time afterwards, when I was, grown up, I was afraid of teenagers. I'd go and walk on the other side of the road in case they called me names and things like that. Because even to look at somebody would trigger off all these feelings. So what I've learned to do is let go of them. And there is a letting go process, which you can apply to anything that's happened in the past. And the first thing is to be aware of the feelings inside. And you'll be aware of them because you'll get upset when someone calls you stupid or whatever it may be. So to be aware of the feelings, to acknowledge the feelings, not think, oh, I'm not going to think about that. I don't want to remember the times I was tripped over in the playground. No, acknowledge them. I was really angry when they did that. And then accept those feelings. They were perfectly reasonable feelings to have at the time. Right, and then the next step is to let go of the feelings. Now, there are different ways of letting go. As an adult, you can look back on things. So one way of letting go would be to look at the bigger picture. Why were those children bullying me? Well, they were probably being bullied at home. That's where they learned that behavior. They may have felt insecure because they were small compared with me. A lot of them actually weren't quite so academically inclined, so they were getting bad marks in their exams and tests, and I was seen as a little swot, always top of the class. So when you see the bigger picture, you can understand why they behaved like that. That's not to excuse their behavior, But in understanding it, you can then forgive. Because with understanding comes compassion, with understanding comes forgiveness. So forgiveness can be a very powerful tool to help us to get rid of some of those feelings. Okay, so that's one thing we can do. See the bigger picture. Another thing is to express the feelings. We could write them down in a letter and then get it all out that way, and then not send the letter, but tear up the letter. And then in that way, we will release the feelings. We can also do it in meditation. So I'll do a little experiment with you in a second. And then someone here has said, send good wishes to someone who's been nasty to me. But I have no contact with them. It doesn't matter. The person can be living or dead. They're a soul. They're around. They have been around. They still are around. If not in this body, then in another body. And the very act of forgiving, or the very act of sending good wishes, is healing you. And this is what it's all about. It's about healing myself by releasing all these things. So it's a bit like a kind of a petrol can. If it's got lots of fumes in it, apparently if you put a match in, it will blow up. Get rid of the fumes, so you can put as many matches, lighted matches in as you like, and it won't make any difference. So we're being given every day opportunities through the pain that we feel, through the irritation, to look inside ourselves and trace back, where is this coming from? And then we can release it and heal it. Okay, so there's lots of interesting comments coming up here, which we haven't really got time to do. But if, I mean, like the person here, it's very difficult to let go when people walk or are trying to walk all over you. Now, why do they walk all over you? Quite often it's because of a lack of self-esteem. So again, we don't deny the fact people are walking all over us, but we need to look at the causes. What message am I giving out? Some of us, like I used to go around timid little boy like this. I really had a sign on me saying, kick me, more or less. I was inviting it because I was so fearful, so insecure, so timid. And there will be people who will pick up on that energy. There'll be people in your workplace there. Some of those who can't say no, the boss will give them loads of extra work. Those who can stand up for themselves and assert themselves and put down boundaries, they won't give them any more than they can cope with, because they know they'll get a no back. So, you know, why am I being picked on? Don't just blame the other people. Look inside. What messages am I giving out? Okay, so all this can help. Oh, what? All right, thank you. Well, that's a nice comment for somebody, but we haven't finished yet. Oh, meant to finish in. It's okay if I go on for a few more minutes, Margaret, please, if you're there.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay.
We don't finish while 1/2 past.
Okay then. Okay, because I am answering questions as I go along rather than waiting.
Yeah.
For the end. Okay then. So we'll do now a letting go exercise, which is very powerful and very simple. And remember, this is a crucial point. If you go into the past, it is not to relive it. It is not to think, poor old me, I've had a terrible life. No, because that's just going to reinforce the negativity, reinforce the anger. We're going into the past to release the past, to get rid of the feelings. We can't deny certain things have happened, but we can get rid of the feelings connected with them, and we can do other things to resolve any issues. We can have therapy if we need it. We can put down boundaries in the future so that people won't, you know, abuse us physically or mentally as they have done in the past. Okay, there's someone else saying something there to me, but anyway, I'll have to read that afterwards. It's a bit distracting. So let's do our best to get rid of as much as we can, okay? So, okay then, so if you'd just like to sit back, do some slow, deep, gentle breathing. Now remember who you really are. So you're a soul, a spiritual being. And you're separate from the body. And we're detaching from, I'm going to observe, you use the word detaching or observe. We want to form the intention of getting rid of all the angry feelings which we're carrying inside us. So we have that intention. We want to release them without blame, without judgment, without anything like that. So that we can be free, we can be peaceful, we can be loving. This is why we're doing it. Not to beat ourselves up, but just to release, because we know underneath this all we are peaceful beings. Okay, so now on the screen of your mind, imagine in front of you, there's a container which can take all your angry feelings from the past. Okay, so now visualize all these feelings coming up and going past you into the container. You can give them a shape if you want, you can give them a color. You can imagine it's a thick black sludge that's going into the container. You can see it's loads of bricks or rocks going into the container, or lots of poisonous gas, whatever suits you. Just bring out all the feelings to go in as a detached observer. And the container will expand to take whatever it needs to take, whatever you want to put in it. So just see it all going past, all going in, all clearing and cleaning from inside. And the more you put in, the lighter you feel. The more you put in, the more peaceful you feel. And then when the container is full, when it can't take any more because you've put it all in, then just visualize yourself sealing the container. You can seal it in any way you like. You can weld the top on, you can put chains around it, do whatever you want. And then in front of the container, you will notice a big roaring furnace. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to push the container into the furnace, but it's very important to push it in with love, not with anger or frustration, but with love, because you're releasing it, you're letting it all go, and then it tumbles down into the furnace and it all burns away until there's nothing left. And then just notice how much better you feel inside. And now just visualize yourself like a very, very powerful bird rising from the ashes, like a phoenix or an eagle, and see yourself just flying through the sky, having released a lot of burdens, a lot of chains, a lot of weights, the burdens of the past, all those heavy, negative, angry feelings have all gone, leaving you free to be peaceful, free to be happy. Just enjoy being free. Okay, and now just give yourself a pat on the back for releasing things. So it can make a big difference, this, but you may have to do it a number of times. Not everything comes out at once. They're a bit like the layers of an onion. You peel one lot and then there's another lot underneath, but that's okay. It's a process of freeing, a process of letting go. And it takes time, but at least if you know where you want to go, you want to be free of anger, free of frustration, free of irritation, then do it and see what happens. Right. Right, so your name can make it, something like as simple as your name can make a difference. Yes, it can have an impact, definitely, yeah. Okay, so that's the third step then of healing the heart. And the fourth step, which a lot of you will know about already, is awakening the spirit. So awakening the spirit, remembering to open your third eye. So we've got two physical eyes to see the physical world. We've got a third eye for the spiritual world, for the world of spirit, and all the things connected with that. So there's the law of karma, comes under spirituality. What you give out will come back. So again, that helps us to understand, why am I in this angry situation? What have I done to create it? And how can I change it? So again, no blame, but understanding, and then have a firm intention. I'm going to be very peaceful and positive in the future. And if I give out peace and positivity, sooner or later, and it may be later, it will come back to me. If I give out love rather than hate, the love will come back. So that's a very important law. Another important law is the law of entropy. Everything goes from new to old, from order to chaos. And spiritually, we were at one time very peaceful and loving and powerful, as I was suggesting. Over time, we've come down from that high state. And that's because we've forgotten who we are, and we've identified with the body. So in other words, I've become body conscious. So my world is limited. Everything is to do with me and the body that I'm in. And if I've only got one life, and this is it, I'm going to feel very anxious and worried. What's going to happen to me when I die? I'm going to want to hold on to everything, get more if I can to help me, because this is all there is. And then at the same time, of course, I'm going to feel dissatisfied, because there'll be a little voice inside me saying, I know I've been better than this. I know I can be happier than this. So again, how do we solve that one? We solve that by becoming soul conscious again, remembering who we really are. And then through Raj Yoga, we also connect to the divine. And through the divine or the supreme being, we can receive new power, new energy, which will help to lift our spirits and will help us to overcome our negativity. So obviously, those who haven't done Raj Yoga course, I would recommend that you do it, and it will be done at the center, I'm sure. And I'll probably give you details of that in a minute. So, yes, it's 21 minutes past, so we have to finish really now. So I hope that gives you some idea of the 4 steps, some understanding of what anger is, and hope for the future. If we remember that, you know, we're originally peaceful beings, we've acquired all this stuff, and we can get rid of it all. And that will help us a lot. So some people putting some nice comments in there. Very interesting. Keep it up. Thank you. Right. Okay. And another thanks. Thank you very much. Very useful. And if I can just mention, if you want to know more about all these things, there is a book I wrote quite recently called Breaking Through the Darkness: How to Defeat Depression, Anxiety and Stress. And there's lots of useful exercises and coaching questions in it. And it's had very good reviews on Amazon. It's got mainly 5-star ratings, so it's very practical, very simple. And so you can get that if you want. And there's also a good website to go with it called breakingthroughthedarkness.com. And there's lots of nice videos on there. There's lots of inspiring quotes and things like that. And that's definitely worth a visit to. So breakingthroughthedarkness, all one word, .com. And thank you for all your nice comments. All right, Anjali there. Okay. Thank you for that. Lovely to reconnect. Thank you for a beautiful session. Thanks a lot, John. Thank you very much. And don't forget, you can email in for the handouts. And also, there's a very good questionnaire, an anger checklist. And on one side, it gives you all the examples of aggressive behavior. And on the other side, it gives you the passive behavior. And the idea is you tick all the ones you're still doing and put a cross against the ones that you used to do. And then that way you can see whether you've improved or not. Then another thing, when you look at it in a detached way, consider, am I more aggressive or am I more passive in my behavior, in my anger? And then think to yourself, why is that? And I can guarantee it'll go back to childhood and you'll have picked up a model of behaving, either that of your mother or that of your father. And you'll be modeling their behavior. So again, it's useful to be aware of that, and then you can do something about it.